Right, I'm delighted to be joined today by Doug Carter for Angelus Law. Doug, welcome.
Thank you.
And just tell us a little bit about this initiative that you've launched, because clearly we're well aware of some of the financial scandals that have gone on over the past decade or so through banks.
Yeah.
I think you've uncovered a new one though.
Yeah, it's basically people that have had a final salary pension. So if you work for a company, invariably these are older pension schemes. Very few companies offer them now, but it's where it's protected against any market conditions. The pension will always rise every single year. You get larger death in service benefits, spousal benefits, child benefits, as in if you do pass away, even your children get a pension. So these are the gold standard pensions.
Yeah.
And there's an awful lot of people that have been advised to move out of these gold standard pensions into a lot riskier investment markets. And we basically want to help those people that have been impacted, and a lot of people won't even realise they've been impacted, hence why talking to you and other people like you is really beneficial to help get the message out there.
Okay. So I've got a gold-plated pension, and then I'm taken out of that. What's the process for that? Would somebody have to approach me and advise me to do so?
Invariably, what these people do, they'll target certain companies. So we know some of the companies that we've investigated and looked into have targeted Asda, Next Retail Limited, Tesco, some of the longer standing some of blue chip companies that we know have offered final salary pensions to most of their staff because they're long established. Banks, etc., etc. So these people will do videos, marketing campaigns, they'll get hold of data in probably non-GDPR compliant ways and target these people. But because these people don't realise they know what they've got, they're kind of easy prey.
Yeah.
So what we then want to do is help. You can never put them back in the position that they were in, because you can't put somebody back into the pension they were in. Once you leave a final salary, you've left for good. Yeah. But what we do is we do a matrix to see what their future financial loss is likely to be, and then we go for that compensation.
So there's a compensation element to the piece of work that you do at the moment. And if people are looking in and thinking, well, that probably doesn't impact on me because I haven't worked for an Asda or Next, there's lots of other businesses out there.
Oh, thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands.
And what about the public sector? Would that fall into the category?
Yeah, absolutely. There's NHS workers
Yeah.
that have left these pensions, police, believe it or not. But just because they're police doesn't mean that they're financially astute.
Yeah.
There's ex-armed forces, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So there are lots and lots and lots of people. So if you think that you had a final salary pension, even if you're not sure if you had a final salary pension, because nobody sees a pension as their own money until retirement.
Yeah.
So we see funds where people have got 2, 3, 4, 500, even £1 million in a pension. They don't think it's theirs because you can't touch it until retirement age. So that's where pensions are quite misconstrued. But it is your money. It's always your money. You just can't spend it until retirement.
And in terms of when they're being sold this new package, this riskier pension, I'm sure they're not told that at the time.
Correct.
But what are the sort of things that they may have been told about?
We deal with a lot of expats as well. So people that have worked for these blue chip companies that have maybe moved abroad to Spain, even as far as Australia.
Yeah.
And one of the most common sales tactics is you want it in the country that you're going to live in.
Right.
And in the currency that you're going to move to. Why would you want market fluctuations? The market fluctuations are relevant because if you've got a final salary pension, it's index linked to either RPI, CPI or another inflationary measure, and it has to grow at that rate every year. One thing a final salary can't do is decrease. So your pension will only ever grow. These people, if they then move it into something in a local currency, in a maybe even not a risky investment, there's always going to be currency fluctuations, and it will go down or can go down. A final salary pension will never go down.
And what is the typical losses that you're now uncovering in terms of people who transferred the pension in this way?
I think the biggest loss that we've come across is around 1.4 million.
Wow.
Which
Really?
is huge, absolutely huge.
Okay.
Somebody that worked in the oil industry had built up a nice fund, and they moved it into an investment that completely failed, as in there was no value. The company that they invested in was liquidated. So that's a full loss of 1.4 million.
And are you able to calculate that loss?
We can calculate the loss in that scenario very, very easily, because on X date they transferred 1.4 million, and today's date is a zero value because the company doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Right.
But if you were that person, imagine how you'd feel.
Yeah.
You have no retirement plan.
Yeah. And so what is the sort of legislation, the law that enables you to take on that mis-selling?
Well, you've got the Financial Service Compensation Scheme, which, if the easiest way to describe that, any bank statement that you have will have the FSCS logo on it. And that means if your bank collapses, you will get up to 85,000 if you had 85,000 in your account. If you had 10,000 in your account and it went bust, you'd get 10,000. But the government made sure that the financial world was covered up to 85,000. You may recall it went up from about 75,000 to 85,000 a few years ago. But the Northern Rock debacle, we all remember that.
Yeah.
Everybody was worried. The queues outside the Building Society to draw money out. Everybody was worried, but they needn't have worried because they were guaranteed to have protection under FSCS. Pensions and anything financial, so long as there was a regulated entity involved, FCA registered, you're covered up to 85,000. If the loss is greater than 85,000, you've got the Ombudsman where we can claim up to 350,000. And then you start getting into direct litigation against the companies that allowed these people to transfer. And if they've got the assets, then we can go for full loss. So there's 3 levels of claim.
Okay. Now we're going to be reaching out here to people who've been impacted who may not know they've been impacted. So the first thing to say is you can do a calculation, you can do a search to see if that actually is something that's impacted effectively.
Absolutely.
And then the next question is obviously going to be how much?
Yeah. Well, ordinarily, a lot of people would have heard of PPI claims. You alluded to it, and the financial misdemeanors that have gone on for a decade or more in the financial world. PPI claims, invariably, the commission or the fees charged, we prefer to use, was 33%. In this arena, because the claims are a lot larger, it's only fair that we charge a lesser fee. So there's a lot of companies, our competitors, that will charge 25, 35 and even 40% plus VAT. We would like to offer your members and your viewers a 22% fee, which I can sit here and say will be the lowest in the industry.
And is that a 22% fee that they have to pay up front?
No. So what happens is it's strictly no win, no fee.
Okay.
So as PPI, and I refer to PPI because most people
knows it,
that had a PPI claim.
Yeah.
It is strictly no win, no fee. There is nothing to pay. We do all the legwork. We do what's called a data subject access request, a DSAR request, where we get all the information about your pension. We have a good look at it. Our financial experts look at it, and then we determine whether you have a claim or not. So by us looking at your pension and seeing if you've got a claim, it's going to cost you absolutely nothing. The only time you pay your 22% fee is upon a success of a claim.
Okay. And let me just ask you this. In terms of timescales, what are the sort of hot spots? Where are the years where you may have had this pension and then at some point it's changed?
To be honest, a lot of the market changed around 2014.
Okay.
So a lot of people that have been impacted have moved their pension after 2014. Doesn't mean if it was moved before we can't do anything, but the vast majority of people that we represent are 2014 onwards. But I do stress that's not a line in the sand. If it was pre-2014, we can still look at it to see if we can help you.
Okay. And is there anything else you think people need to know in terms of this package that's, it could mean literally hundreds of £1,000s coming into people's pockets?
Absolutely. And that's why I stress there's nothing to pay, only upon success. So allow us to look at it. If you think you've been impacted, did you get a cold call to move your pension? That's a red flag straight away. Were you in a final salary pension? In other words, was your salary protected with benefits? Did you move it? Did somebody talk to you about moving it? Even if you're not sure if you moved it, there's potentially a claim. Have you had an annual statement? And COVID's quite a poignant point. The market volatility with the stock market and general investments that aren't FTSE linked have nosedived. We've all seen it with the FTSE 100 tracker. It's gone from nearly 8,000 down to 6,000 and below. That means you've potentially had a loss. So if you've lost more than 20,000 from one statement to the next, we'd like to talk to you because you potentially have a claim. So never assume you don't. Just get somebody to look at it and see if you do.
Okay. And it's very simple for them to do that. They can either contact us directly at Downtown or Doug.
Or they can contact Angelus Law and we'd be delighted to help you. But what we'd like you to do is quote Downtown in business when you call in.
Cool. Okay. Great to chat to you.
Pleasure.
And hopefully we'll come back and some success stories that you've got through our membership.
Look forward to sharing it with you.
Good stuff. Cheers, Doug.
Thank you.